this is just a presentation, but I'm just gonna go over some other stuff too, like how to actually write it, like and like in an organized way. Let's see. And thanks for joining. I will try to record it and see if I can upload it. So if you want have any question, you can go over it again over it. Okay, so the topic today is how to write a case report. So for any case, so case reports are important just because they give you like a pathway into research, like one of the most easiest thing to do regarding abstracts or just actual manuscripts as well. So you can improve on your academic writing as well. So if you're moving towards original studies, you can start small, writing cases, and see what reviewers give you any kind of feedback, like how you can improve on writing stuff, and you can still add them in your fellowship application. So that helps, and you can submit them to many conferences. Almost all of them accept case reports. All the big conferences like ACC, AHA, DW, ACG, they all accept cases now. And then obviously the experience with it. So any case that you're writing, you should like absolutely make sure that it's not a waste of your time, first of all, because many people write case reports, but not all of them get published. So you want to identify a case and see like what makes it unique, and then we'll go over how to write the actual manuscript. So you can have different kind of case reports. Like you can have a unique diagnosis, like few reported cases over the world, like 5 or 6 published papers. So that's that. You can have a unique treatment aspect. So you can write your whole manuscript based on how you treated a patient, and that was unique to your patient, and that can get published. And you can write a case report with literature review. So you're basically writing a review article, but you started off based off your patient. But that one is always more comprehensive. And the first thing for any case is how you select a case. So the same thing that I said before, you have to find like any rare condition, if not any unusual presentation of a common condition, or like any complication of diagnosis or treatment. Like there's a case super complicated, but diagnosis is simple and no one could diagnose it. And then this is what you guys did, and this is how you diagnose, and what other markers can kind of like cloud the diagnosis. Then look at cases like how you can so cost effectiveness is a big thing. You can look at how you decrease the length of stay and some other stuff by doing something different, and that can also get published. And you can bring awareness about a condition. For example, there are like multiple cases about something, but many cases are missed because it is clouded by some other diagnosis. Or if there is a new treatment, you can talk about that as well. But before writing, I always make sure you talk to people you're attending. Just ask them, do you think this case is writable? Because they may have gone through literature more than you, and you can see like what other people perspective is over a particular topic. If like even if like 3 people are saying it's not that interesting, but 2 people are saying it's interesting, you can write it. You can still submit it as an abstract, and because you're gonna do all the hard work and write a case report, and then you realize it's not that unique, so it's just a waste of that time. That you could have worked on like something better. And then they can talk to you about like what questions reviewers may ask if you want to write a discussion, or what possible explanations or which way you can look into the case, because you're just looking from your eyes. You want to look at it from different people's eyes, like how they saw the case. So this is all before writing the case. So you you have your reason for selection, you have your educational objectives. You can start reviewing the literature and see how you're gonna go about the case, and you actually see like how other people have written it before. So what I do is I usually go to PubMed, like one of the biggest resources of any literature, and you wanna write about, for example, downhill races. So you can just see if there are any cases, and they're like obviously 93 results, and you can actually filter it out based off of you want to just look at case reports. You can filter it out and see how many case reports are there, and 64, and then you can see how many in the last 6 7 years, and kind of like narrow it and see where they published, what they wrote about, and see like, what was their perspective. This is all before you're actually writing your own case. So you have an idea what you're gonna do with your case, and you can ask the librarians help as well. This is because ECU librarians, they help you out for literature review. So not everyone knows how to go to PubMed or Google Scholar and what to pull and what not to pull, because there are hundreds of results, like many of them may not be like pertinent to your case. What they do is they kind of like do this advanced search. We kind of combine different variables and look at different results, what's gonna come. And they usually upload into this software called Covidence. So Covidence is where they will upload hundreds of results and you can narrow it down in, let's say, like 1 or 2 days. For example, this is one project I was doing, like hemosuccus pancreatitis, and there were like 155 duplicate results, 112 irrelevant, and then 147 studies we actually included. So you can go over this and see which cases to include. So you can always ask for librarian help as well, just even before writing a case. So you have to talk about like learning objective, what your case would present to current literature. For example, we did a case of this Kikuchi-Fujimoto disease, which was like necrotizing lymphadenopathy, and it was an example of a clouded diagnosis. So what was unique was like a clouded diagnosis. Or another case we did was regarding myasthenia gravis, but it was also clouded diagnosis. And another case we did was literature review as well. For example, this one. And this was, if you go, let's see, I can pull it up. Yeah. So we kind of went over like how we can not just talk about one case, but like multiple cases. So this case, okay. So we went over like a case like simple bacterial infection, but we actually went over many literatures and looked at like 5 or 6 previous cases and found out like, okay, at least 5 people reported it, made a table of it, and saw like how their presentation was different than ours. So you can do that sort of thing in a like a literature review. So writing a case report, so your case, any case, does not matter which journal you're gonna submit it in. It's gonna have a title, abstract. Abstract can be structured or not structured. Structure meaning you will have an introduction, methods, case presentation, and your conclusion. Structure means it's just gonna be a paragraph. You can have your introduction, case presentation, the actually hospital course, what happened, conclusion, references. References will have their own style. Acknowledgements if you need to give someone tables and figure legends, and then you're gonna submit figures separately. So the best way to go about any case is actually make your case presentation tables and figures first, because this is all the data that you're gonna write about. So you have your tables about what happened, or if there is any previous literature with similar cases, you have your figures like what happened, and your case presentation like, okay, this was the hospital course. So now you have a story to tell and you can go about it. So introduction is gonna be brief introduction about what the topic is about. So if it is like an infection, you just talk about it and say, okay, this is the prevalence of the infection. This is how it usually presents, and our case is like your aim of the case report. Like this this is gonna be our discussion point of view, and this is unique in our case. And then discussion is like what you did with that case. So you did a specific treatment which was unique, you did a specific diagnostic point of view which was unique, so you go about that. And then you write the abstract, references, journal selection, of formatting. So this is not like a straight from A to B. You first work with the things that you know, and then you think of the things that you don't know, and you write about things you don't know. So like for any case report, if you're writing from ECU patients, you actually like technically you don't need a patient consent. However, just because in any writing any case, we kind of omit any HIPAA identifiers, like we don't put their names or this is their address and stuff like that. There are like 16, 17 HIPAA identifiers on ECU website, and we don't actually mention that. However, many journals they actually require you to have a consent form. What I do is I print out any regular consent form over Google. So you can find like patient consent form and print it and get patient to sign it, or their person like healthcare power attorney to sign it, and just you have it, just in case. But many journals don't actually require it. So regarding case presentation, it should always start with a presenting complaint, like 24-year-old patient presented here with abdominal pain and then past medical history, like you write any HPI. And then you go over past medical history, your chronic events, like how it happened in a chronological way. You shouldn't it should be very medical oriented. It should not be how like random stuff. It should be like very chronological, like you are trying to tell the reader, like this is what happened and this is what we did for whatever was happening. You'd always make sure the lab values are okay, and your treatment plan was inpatient and what was the outpatient follow-up if you did. Because many reviewers will ask you what was the outpatient if the patient left and what happened after 3 months. If you have that data, you should always add it, or when you're revising the study, you can always add it. And I'm gonna go over this stuff and show you how it can be done, like in actual files as well. So same thing as patient consent. If you're like putting in pictures, obviously you need a consent, and sometimes the consent form for pictures is different for journals than the actual consent form for writing a case. So you make sure like you have that. So, so you have written your case presentation, then you go about your introduction, like few lines about topic, what it is lacking, and how your case is addressing it. So that is important. And then you write your discussions, always like in the first paragraph, make sure what made it unique. And then you talk about discuss data that is only in your case. You don't like talk about random stuff unless you're doing a review article, and you talk about specific points that you have touched base with your attendings, and you already mentioned in your discussion that the reviewers may ask you about this or that, so you try to mention everything in a discussion button into your case, so people will have minimal reservations regarding your discussion. And in the end, I always put a small limitation, like if I didn't do a specific CT scan, this was a process behind it, people won't mention this and won't reject your case report. And then conclusion, what are the take home points. And in the end, after you written like all of it, you write an abstract, which is just like a summary of your case reports. The structure of abstract is always dependent on how the journal guidelines are, and most readers only read abstracts. Even like for me, if I'm just superficially reviewing a study, they only would read an abstract. So you should like always make sure this tells the accurate representation, and it's often hard because just like 250 words or 300 words for different studies, so you just have to like go about it. And it helps if you see previous studies, how they have written abstract that got accepted, which may have similar cases, and see how they did it. In the end, titles. So you can decide to type a tentative title initially, but in the end, you can change it and see what really helps. And sometimes it has to catchy, but not be like very weird. For example, like this case we did was we were like actually we just literally said like this is the name of the case. This is the disease and case of supraclavicular lymphadenopathy. This one was a bit unique, like neuromuscular surprise, uncommon case of native joint septic ulcer. So not like very weird, but this one was like a little bit weird, but it still got published though. Disseminated herpes simplex infection induced hepatitis during pregnancy. It is a mouthful, but at least it's just telling people like, okay, this is what you can expect in a case. And when you've written like all of it, when you go about citations, always try to use studies which are indexed in PubMed, because it's easier to find citations. If you're using any citation manager, you can like add those studies in the citation manager, and they will automatically add like in your actual manuscript. So what I do is like if I'm working with someone, I try to use Google Docs. So if multiple people are working on it, you can add different people on the same thing, and they can comment and do whatever, and you like share it with different people, and they can all work on it. And what I do, because multiple people are working on it, which I do recommend, what I do is like I add only PubMed IDs. So if I am writing the introduction and like for example someone else is writing a discussion, I'll ask them to add PubMed IDs only, and PubMed IDs are like these things that you see. So it will make it easy for you as well, that if you try to rearrange some stuff, you can like rearrange this sentence and copy paste it here, and it won't change the referencing number. And it's easier to just rearrange when multiple people are working on it. But if you alone are doing discussion, you can use different softwares to add references like EndNote, RefWorks, Zotero, Mendeley. So ECU has access to all of these. These are all free for ECU. And you can find different tutorials on these things online, very easy to work with these things. But mostly I recommend doing it manually if multiple people are working on a file, so you can rearrange it. It's not like in a pain in the ass later on. And you can use website like this, like site.mikeschroeder.com. You can put in PubMed IDs and it gives you the references. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Let's see. So so this is like a website and you can find different, referencing styles. And if I paste, let's see, I'll paste this PubMed ID here. And this is a reference style I want. It's going to suggest me a citation. It's going to add it here. I can copy paste everything and paste in my manuscript. So yeah. And how to find the next question is like how to find about a good journal to publish your research. Always like I try to make sure it is PubMed index because that's how your research will get more visibility. And people will cite it more, so that's in the end that's what you want to get out there. You can find like different automated journal finders. So if you're written like a tentative abstract and a manuscript, there are different bigger companies like Springer, Nature, Wiley's, and NCY. They're all publication companies. You find their journal finder, and it's like an automated process. You put in your abstract and it's gonna let's see, it's gonna like already give you suggestions of which journal you want to submit in. For example, Wiley journal finder, you just type it on Google, go to Wiley journal finder, and let's see, like if I put in title of any study, let's see this one, yeah, and then I'm gonna put like a copy of an abstract, just copy paste this. You can find this for different publication companies. So it gives you like suggestions of all these journals. Sometimes it's very accurate and sometimes it's not. For example, this one gave me journal suggestion of this, and I did submit in journal, and then it got published there. So it's often helpful. And the best thing is, I like Wiley because ECU pays for Wiley publications, and PLOS journals, there are some other journals as well, they will pay for it. There's also an open access fund as well, but you have to like apply it for every year. But in the end, if you're submitting for Wiley hybrid journals, you can just automatically choose those, and ECU will automatically like pay for it. Even if it's like a couple of $1,000, they will automatically pay for it. You won't have to do anything. How you go about it is like you just type Wiley Carolina Consortium, and it's gonna give you this link. There's an open access agreement between Wiley Publications and North and South Carolina, and you can like look at this like Wiley hybrid journals and download this Excel file. It has like 1,800 journals that you can go over, and just like Control F, find whatever journal like medicine, and just gives you, let's see, let me type in gastroenterology. So it just gives you like a journal of gastroenterology. You can choose this one, and ECU is going to pay for all of these if your publication is accepted. So that's always helpful, and it's open access, so your stuff gets cited more. So before pitfalls, let's see. So for example, now you start a project with someone, you have multiple people on it, and which I always tell people, like you add more people on it. You start a project with someone and they wrote whatever, you have everything. So then you download the file, and you're always going to have like a base manuscript. For example, just a manuscript like introduction and stuff. This manuscript we wrote for some case report. So you'll have your introduction, and this is my aim. So this is a small introduction about something like HSV simplex virus or whatever in a pregnant female. We talked about what the case happened, and what was the of the conclusion of the case, and then we'll talk about what is the aim of talking about case report. And then this is the case presentation, like a little bit, not everything, just like strictly chronological order and what happened medically. And then your discussion, just like a summary of what you discussed, and then you go over whatever, and you can see these are the PubMed IDs that I pasted, so I can like switch around the discussion, and then in the end I can put references. And these are tables. So we did a literature review, and we found like similar cases. So all these cases had similar finding. So we went over like age, presentation, management, outcome, and you can like see this many percent had this much outcome, and you can discuss if they're like 50 cases, but these are like just 7 cases. So we just reported like refer to this table, and this was our question. So you can make tables like this and just makes your study more acceptable. So this is just so you will have like many versions of manuscripts. Like so this is the base manuscript. This has nothing. Then you go about, you will have another manuscript. Let's see, this one added with references. So you will have references now added, and this one is a little more cleaner version. Let's see. And then you will have, author contribution, all of that, and you have references added, and then in the end you have figures. You'll have like a separate table. This just depends on the journal. So just make a different file for a table, and let's see, and then you submit this. And the final submission obviously depends on the journal's requirement, and often they will send back the manuscript, tell you like, okay, these are our questions, so this is what they look like. A reviewer reviewed the manuscript and this is what their question was. So you send them another file that this is our response, and then this was another method, and this was our response. This was another like question. This was another question. So bunch of questions. They're always gonna ask like a ton of questions. No need to get like confused by this. You just take it question by question and answer whatever they said. You can be a little bit like salty about it too. Like sometimes I'm salty. Like why didn't you read my discussion? Like it had the stuff. So yeah, and then you submit another copy, but this one should have like the track changes. How you do is you go to review, and I'm sure you guys probably know this, but I guess if I do all markup, so you'll know like the changes I made. And this is what you send them back, so they know you made these changes based off of what the guy reviewed. And after that, they will also ask you to send you a clean copy. So this is the manuscript with like everything that you change, and you accept all the changes that you made, and they have finally accepted the manuscript. And you always like initially you also submit like a cover letter, like this you can like find on YouTube, and you can like type it like, dear professor, we're pleased to submit our manuscript. This is the title, and the consideration is as a case report. You can give a brief summary why your case is unique, and then this stuff is like pertinent to which journal you're submitting to. So they will tell you like your cover letter should mention stuff, this is this stuff. So you're mentioning like all authors contributed a manuscript, there is no conflict of interest, stuff like that, and your address and stuff. So this all of these files you submit to the general submission, and different figures you make. The uniquer your figures are, the more the manuscript is going to be accepted. And sometimes they will also ask you to submit this conflict of interest statement like separately. Sometimes each journal would have their separate statements, and just make sure that you sign them and make sure go through it, and don't do something that you're not supposed to. So going back to the presentation, pitfalls, like, so first make sure it's not plagiarized. So I know everyone loves to like copy paste and just submit their own, but don't do this, because Dr. Leland will get an email, and then your career could be like over. So don't do this. Like always go through plagiarism checkers and like Grammarly and stuff. Make sure the references are in a good style. Make sure you go through reviewers comments and editorial comments as well. Journal selection, as I said, that is very important. Sometimes if you research, even case report is very good, but the journal you selected is not appropriate for it, they're gonna just reject it. They won't even send it for review. This happens very often. And sometimes if you don't cover their guidelines, they will just reject it. And for me, like I always use Grammarly. I send it to someone who is a native English speaker so they can go over it. And I try to make sure like more people are working on stuff. So you use like something like Google Docs, so you know what everyone else is doing, and you can online comment and review in a single file instead of spamming someone with like 5-6 emails. So you don't need IRB for case reports. They, like I've discussed with them, you don't need it, but if you need it for some other research, you can always go about it. It's just, you just type like ECU IRB and the first link pops up. So you will always get like a lot of rejection. This is just for me over the last like few months. So you get a lot of rejections. Sometimes it depends, like your manuscript wasn't appropriately selected for a particular journal. It may have been a better fit for another journal. Sometimes your it just varies. It depends of the editor as well. What are their interests? They didn't like the abstract, or there was some issues. So they'll get rejection, but you will like after every three rejection, you'll get like one acceptance. So you can keep submitting it to different things. What I try to do is like you working on one project, you finished it, you sent it, and then don't wait for it to get accepted or rejected. Start working on your new project, and then you can submit that one. If the previous one gets rejected, you can submit it somewhere else. So you have a whole cycle of stuff you're going about. And like so any like peer review process is just like this. So imagine like you spend a lot of time making tables, and then people will pick up like weird questions like why the table has four legs, it could have an eight leg, table is too heavy, why the table is even there, why didn't make a chair. So everyone would have their own unique aspect and unique questions. It's just how you handle like reviewer answers. You have to make sure that what you study, it was pertinent, was important, and this is your reason for the study. So that always helps if your reviewer answers are good. So yeah, I think that's about it. Let's see. Any questions regarding this? Let me see.
Hey, Sam, I had a quick question. Thank you for this presentation.
Yeah.
My question was like, so when we write a case report, let's say it's our first time writing one, what is the expected time frame that we should be spending writing a case report? I know like it should take longer the first time and then get quicker, but
Uh-huh. Yeah, so your first case report, I mean, obviously, if it takes like 2-3 weeks at most, if you're writing everything by yourself, that's completely acceptable. The first case report will always take long because you're learning a lot of stuff. But after that, it does get easier. I would not say it shouldn't take any more than, if you're really working on it, shouldn't take anything more than like 2-3 weeks. Yeah. And I think Lil Hussam asked a question, how to check for plagiarism. Is there a plagiarism checker at ECU? Let's see. Okay, let me share this again and show you what I use. Okay, so what I do is I mean I just go on. I mean there you can buy subscriptions. I have like Grammarly, so I use that. So my Grammarly would have plagiarism checkers. Like let's see if I can move this. So you can check like plagiarism here. I'm gonna start checking this. And then you can type in like online plagiarism checkers. Like there are a couple of websites with bunch of ads, but they do help a lot. Like this one is good, but there's a word limit of 1,000 patients. I like this. It's called Small Tools. And then there's another one I use. Let's see. Think maybe this one. Yeah, so this is another one that I use, and it's similar to. These are just like free websites with a bunch of ads, but they do work really good. And if I'm trying to like submit something, I try to make it go through multiple plagiarism checkers because sometimes one plagiarism checker website will pick something and the other won't. So you have to make sure. And then I think Lil Sam also asked, like, can you submit the same manuscript to other journals without any changes? So you can, if the desk rejected it, they didn't tell you like what were the changes you have to make. But if they told you, like, if they send it for peer review and peer reviews kind of like said, like, okay, you don't like these are the changes and this is why we didn't like the manuscript. Obviously make sure before you're submitting it to the new journal you make those changes if you think those are like decent comments. So yeah, any other questions?
so if we're doing like, let's say we're not doing a case report and we're doing some like, let's say meta-analysis or something, do we have an
Uh-huh.
IT department at ECU that can help us pull chart records? How do
Yeah,
we?
yeah. So yeah, definitely you can touch base with any librarian. So what I do is like I go to different people's profiles who have published before through ECU and see if they have ever had like any librarian they have added to author list. So I email them. And I've done it like once or twice and email them, tell them, okay, this is what I want you to do. And if you can like do literature search for me, and they will do it and put it over Covidence. So Covidence is the software you can like go through everything very easily and get rid of the stuff that is not pertinent to your studies. So librarians would help you. Obviously, they expect you to put their name in the publication later on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Any other question? No. Okay. I guess that's the next. Yeah.
Hey,
Shrikant.
hey Hassan. Hey
Yeah.
Hassan, thank you so much for your time. Can you send us the email ID of the librarian that you were talking about?
Yeah, let me find it. Let me see. I will have to find it, but I'll send it to you. The one I asked for help
Sure.
like was two years ago. Let's see if I can like find it right now. Give me 1 second. Yeah, but I don't want people to spam only that librarian. Just like spam different people. See, but I will try to see if I can find some other see, send it here. Okay, I'm gonna send it in the chat box. So this is the person who helped me. So yeah, she's the one. She's gonna like make your account in Covidence and do a literature search for you.
Hey Hassan, thank you so much. But can you just go over Covidence a little more in detail if you don't mind?
Oh yeah. Let's see. Let me see. Let me share this. Okay, so Covidence is like our ECU's like ECU uses Covidence, which is just a software. What the librarian does it pulls over. They uses a specific like search words like varices and or bleeding stuff like that, and they pull like hundreds of studies. So for example, if like 200 something studies are added over this thing, it's gonna show up like this. It's gonna automatically detect and remove studies which were duplicates. And then there will be studies like 188 studies which were not duplicates, but they were selected based of our search terms, the title and the abstract, if those search terms were in the title and abstract. And then you go over those studies and see like which one of them are relevant and which one of them are not. So each study like you go to, you have different options here. These are all non-relevant studies for my literature review. So I will like click on like remove and the study will get removed. And for example, like this, let me show you. So you can include, exclude, simple like that. Like, okay, you went through this, you can open up the full link and see like if that one is important and then remove it. And if it is if it is important, include it. If it's not, just exclude it. And that's how I came down to 147 studies, and you can screen all of these studies and see if this makes your cut like for final review article or whatever you're trying to write.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. But the librarian will help you make that account. Like if you touch base with her, she'll help you out.
Okay, got it.